On to chapter 3 of the book of Esther. It starts out by saying after these events. So just to recap, Esther has been selected as queen. Mordecai has heard of an evil plot against the king. He tells Esther, Esther tells the king, they investigate it, find it to be true, and those two bad guys are hung on wooden gallows. After these events, King Ahasuerus honored Haman, the son of Hammedatha, the Agagite, and promoted him and established his authority over all the officials who were with him. All the king's servants who were at the king's gate bowed down and paid homage to Haman, for so the king had commanded regarding him. But Mordecai neither bowed nor paid homage. Then the king's servants who were at the king's gate said to Mordecai, "Why are you violating the king's command?" Now it was when they had spoken daily to him, and he would not listen to them, that they told Haman to see whether Mordecai's reasons would stand, for he had told them that he was a Jew. When Haman saw that Mordecai neither bowed down nor paid homage to him, Haman was filled with rage. But he considered it beneath his dignity to kill Mordecai alone, for they had told him who the people of Mordecai were. So Haman sought to annihilate all the Jews, the people of Mordecai, who were found throughout the kingdom of Ahasuerus. In the first month, which is the month of Nisan, in the 12th year of King Ahasuerus, Pur, that is the lot, was cast before Haman from day to day and from month to month, until the 12th month, that is the month Adar. Then Haman said to King Ahasuerus, "There is a certain people scattered and dispersed among the peoples in all the provinces of your kingdom. Their laws are different from those of all your people, and they do not comply with the king's laws. So it is not in the king's interests to let them remain. If it is pleasing to the king, let it be decreed that they be annihilated, and I will pay 10,000 talents of silver into the hands of those who carry out the king's business and put into the king's treasuries." Then the king took his signet ring from his hand and gave it to Haman, the son of Hammedatha, the Agagite, the enemy of the Jews. And the king said to Haman, "The silver is yours, and the people also, to do with them as you please." Then the king's scribes were summoned on the 13th day of the first month, and it was written, just as Haman commanded, to the king's satraps, to the governors who were over each province, and to the officials of each people, each province according to its script, each people according to its language, being written in the name of King Ahasuerus and sealed with the king's signet ring. Letters were sent by couriers to all the king's provinces to annihilate, kill, and destroy all the Jews, both young and old, women and children, in one day, the 13th day of the 12th month, which is the month Adar, and to seize their possessions as plunder. A copy of the edict to be issued as law in every province was published to all the peoples so they could be ready for this day. The couriers went out, speeding by the king's orders, while the decree was issued at the citadel in Susa. And while the king and Haman sat down to drink, the city of Susa was agitated. So, what are your thoughts about this chapter? Let's start up here at the top. So even though Mordecai saved the king from this evil plot, it appears that the king is going to go ahead and honor Haman. He's the son of Hammedatha, the Agagite. He gets a promotion. And everybody is supposed to bow to him. Now, he's not the king, and God's law says that the Lord puts those people in position. So therefore, by not honoring the king, essentially you're not honoring the Lord, since the Lord put the king in position. But this guy, Haman, Mordecai's like, I don't bow to anybody but God. And you've got these people sitting in this gate, right? And it says the servants, the king's servants. And if you watch what they do, right? So the first thing they do, all the king's servants who were at the gate bows. Mordecai doesn't. So then the king's servants who were at the king's gate, they ask Mordecai, why are you violating the king's command? So it sounds like they're defending the king, right? It sounds like they're wanting to protect what the king has put out and wanting to know why he's being disrespectful of the king. And then it says, verse 4, now it was when they had spoken daily to him, and we don't know how many days, but daily, and he wouldn't listen to them. So they're taking offense. They're like, hey, you need to be bowing. Hey, you need to be bowing. Hey, you need to be bowing. And Mordecai's like, not even. And so now they're like, you're not going to listen to us? And so they said, since he would not listen to them, that they told Haman. So they didn't take it to the queen to be brought to the king to investigate, to see if it was true. They gossiped to Haman instead because they themselves were offended that he wasn't listening to their instruction. And so they gossiped over to Haman. And it says they told Haman to see whether Mordecai's reason would stand, for he had told them that he was a Jew. When Haman saw that it was true, that Mordecai wasn't going to bow down to him, it says he was filled with rage. So he too took it personal, and he allowed that to just fester and just grow inside him. But he didn't do anything about it. He didn't approach Mordecai. He didn't take it to the king. He didn't squash that then and there. It says he was afraid, essentially, because it says he knew the people. He wasn't gonna kill Mordecai alone, for they had told him who the people of Mordecai were. So my guess is there was a little bit of fear there for Mordecai's people. So instead, he sets out, and this just gets me every time I read it, to annihilate all the Jews. And once again, my thoughts of being a Western mindset person in the United States, to wrap my brain around the depth of wanting to annihilate, completely erase from existence an entire group of people. It just blows my mind. I just can't, And this never stops, sadly. It never stops. We read it here. We saw it with Germany. We're seeing it today. Regardless of opinions, I'm just saying this never stops. And then he takes it to the king, and he embellishes the story and says to the king that there's a whole group of people, okay? There's certain people scattered, dispersed throughout your land. Now, remember how large his land was, right? All these different areas, because, my gosh, he spent 180 days celebrating in chapter 1. That they're scattered and dispersed peoples amongst all your provinces, and their laws are different, meaning they go by different things from you. And that's not true. That's not true. They know who the king was. They know who put the king in position. Mordecai honored the king by saving his life from those two people who wanted to kill him. They're obedient to the king. So it's not true. There's never been a problem with them in the past. As a matter of fact, since they've been out of captivity, there's nothing recorded of having issues with them. But yet the king doesn't investigate on who these people are. He just took Haman's word for it. Yeah. What are your thoughts? The end of verse 8, Haman tells the king how he should feel. So it is not in the king's interest to let them remain. And then he proceeds to give him the solution. And that is, if it pleases you, let's write a decree that they be eliminated. And there are some experts that say that would have been 20% of the population that would have been removed from this world if this had gone through. But he tells him, we'll pay somebody, I'll pay them to see this out. And the crazy thing is, if you pay attention to the time frame here at the end of this chapter, when the letter was sent out, basically it's saying that this was the first month. So the 13th day of the first month is when the scribes are jotting this down, and then it's being put out across the land. And it is saying that there's going to be a day. And I think that there's a movie that is, I've never seen it, but there's a movie that is sounds similar to this, where I think it's called The Purge. That just kind of comes to my mind, something similar to this, where there's one day that these folks in this town are going to be allowed, per the king, to kill and destroy. And that's another thing too I wanted to bring out, where in verse 13 it says they are going to annihilate, kill, and destroy. And it just rings so similar to steal, kill, and destroy. And we know that's the enemy of our Lord. So it's not surprising that that same spirit is here as well, to annihilate, kill, and destroy the Jews. But they have this one day, and it's put out on the first month of the year. But the day that it's to be fulfilled is the 12th month. So think about that. If you were someone listed, a Jew listed in this document with a set death date, you're supposed to live now for a whole year knowing that you've got a target on your back. You've only got a small amount of time before God knows who is, planning your death and conniving how they're going to come up against you. And they have every right, according to this, to do so. How terrifying. No stability, no safety, no joy. How do you live in a situation like that? That's just, wow.